it falls, it lands straight on my leg and cuts through my leg on the spot. And my leg is sitting off to the side of me, and
you can see your leg?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's right in front of me. And they had to falsify my papers in the hospital in Indonesia to allow me to get onto the plane. It takes 20 hours to get a doctor to actually show up and test my blood.
Jesus Christ. Hello, Jay.
How you going?
How are you, my brother?
Doing good, man.
The most handsome guy in the
you're too
world.
kind.
Selamlar. Nepal'den muhteşem bir grupla beraberiz ve inanılmaz bir hikaye dinleyeceğiz ama şans eseri yine arkadaşımız birçok kızla bizi yakaladı. You're with many girls again. Yes. So but this time one girl she's from the Albanian mafia in Switzerland. She's just hi, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Mathilde and I come from Switzerland.
My name is Oyana and I'm from France.
Oyana?
Yeah.
Half Algerian or?
No,
Sounds like
it's from Basque country.
Ah, Basque!
Oh. Yeah.
Game changer.
Oh my God! We have some kind of a rebellion here.
I'm not a girl, but my name is Luke, and I'm from Wisconsin in the USA.
Yes.
And I'm Jay.
Jay.
From America as well.
Jay, you have a great story. Also, our friends, French friend and small friends. Is it okay to say small friends to Switzerland? Yeah, no small friends. So, okay, you have a great story. I'm very inspired. So recently we had the earthquake in Turkey, Turkey. You can say, I live in Turkey. So, also many people lost their limbs. They had problems. So. Your story will inspire them, definitely, because you're a very positive guy. I don't think there is a reason not to be positive, but again, some people might be depressed. They might need to hear something from someone like you. So I want you to tell me your story. So how old are you, where you come from, and you were going to school, so you were nearly being graduated from the school. Then you decided to go on a holiday, right?
Yeah.
Biliyorsunuz burs veriyoruz tüm gelirlerimizle ve Just English bana inanılmaz yardımcı oluyor. Just English dil okulları. Onların Türkiye'de onlarca okulu var ve Amerika'da New York ve Los Angeles'ta da dil okulları var. Dünyayı gezmek için dil öğrenmeye ihtiyacınız var. Dil öğrenmeden de gezebilirsiniz ama insanları anlamanız için dil öğrenmeniz gerekiyor. Onun için de İngilizce en önemlisi. Dil öğrenmek için de bana desteğini esirgemeyen Just English'in Amerika'daki ve Türkiye'deki dil okullarını tercih edebilirsiniz.
So hi, I'm Jay. I had an accident about 1.5 years ago. So I was studying in school, I was living in Thailand, and I just graduated. I had a trip planned to go to Indonesia. I was in Indonesia for about 2 weeks when I decided to go cliff diving with some friends. All right, so I was in Indonesia traveling, going around. We went to a place to go cliff diving.
Yeah.
So when we went cliff diving, we had talked to some of the guys and they had told us, oh, there's some hiking trails a little bit further up the trail. If you want to go tomorrow, it'd be a good idea. It could be cool. I was with two friends, two French guys that I just met the day before. And so the next day we decided to come back. We went hiking on these trails and I saw a big rock wall. And I was like, oh, this looks beautiful. Let me go get some pictures. Let me climb a little bit. So I start to climb up the wall. So as I was climbing back down from the rock wall, I put my hand on a big rock for the last time, and a whole chunk of the wall came out with me, maybe 200 kgs of rock. And we're not very high up. It's about 10 meters off the ground, or 10 feet, sorry, 3 meters. And it falls, it lands straight on my leg and cuts through my leg on the spot. I push the rock over and my leg pops off. And so I'm kind of sitting there, a little bit panicked. I don't know what exactly is going on.
A little bit panic, you mean oh, my leg is just...
Honestly, the immediate reaction was, I had the thought of this is not going to be a very good day. It wasn't an extreme crazy panic. I was very in the moment and just recognizing oh, this isn't very good.
Okay, this is shit happens.
Shit happens, something like that. I spent a lot of my life messing around and now I was finding out. And so I knew these days would come. I had accepted my death in a lot of different situations at different times.
I'm like this too.
Yeah.
If it happens, oh, that was the time.
It was like, it's been coming for a while, you know? So it happens, I'm sitting there, one of the French guys comes back, sees me, he panics. I guess in his mind, something else was going on. He disappeared.
I mean, why would something else would? That's quite a
I don't know what
panicable
was happening
situation,
in his
you know?
head.
What would the French guy think?
I think, honestly, I think he was just panicked. I think he didn't know how to handle an emergency situation.
Okay, yeah.
And so he disappeared at that moment, and I never saw him again.
You're joking.
No, seriously. Yeah, he disappeared.
Oh.
Shame on you.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
he
everybody
just freaked out.
expressed his.
Yeah, he freaked out. He didn't know what was happening.
Oh,
Are you
there
not?
is second French.
Yeah.
With two French.
You're Basque.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Yeah, not, okay, sorry.
So the French guy, one of the French guys disappears. The other one stayed around. He helped me throughout the entire process. But at that moment, he ran back to the cliff diving instructors. So they're about maybe 2 kilometers away. So not super far, but he runs back to go find them.
So you were waiting for him alone? Yeah?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
I'm sitting there alone at this point, and my leg is sitting off to the side of me, and
And you can see your leg?
yeah,
Yeah?
yeah, it's right in
there.
front of me.
But you cannot take the rock.
So the rock fell directly on me, and I pushed it.
Yeah.
I pushed it over. It was starting to fall towards me, and I pushed it the other way. And when I pushed it, my leg popped off. So the
you
rock isn't on me. My leg is
Okay.
sitting over here, and I'm just hanging out. So my friend runs to go get the cliff diving instructors. I'm waiting, and I take my t-shirt off. I tie a tourniquet to stop the bleeding, and then I pick up my leg, and I stand up. The trail that we had come to, so it was, to give a picture of where we're at, there's about 200 meters of elevation down to where this river had carved through these rocks.
This is in Bali, right?
This
Bali.
is in the north of Bali, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I decide that I need to get back to where we had come from, and we had crossed the river to get to this point. So I pick my leg up, I've got the tourniquet, and I start hopping across the river. And I fall in the river because I'm on one leg, and it's a river.
I mean, you're not quite experienced being in a one leg.
I mean, at this point, no.
Now I can see you were jumping on your Instagram stories.
But back then
climbing, yeah.
I was very inexperienced on one leg, sure. So I fall into the river, I start getting pushed down the stream, and I'm falling for maybe like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Granted, there had been some time passing where I was just sitting there waiting for my friend to go find the cliff diving instructors before I thought I need to get back. So as I'm falling down, I hear him kind of coming back towards us, and I'm yelling, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, because I'm coming up to a waterfall. So I'm getting pushed up towards this waterfall, and I'm feeling myself starting to tip over the edge when I see him break through the woods, and he comes and grabs me. He pulls me out of the river off onto the rock bed right beside it, and, you know, kind of says, what are you doing? I say, oh, fair point, I probably shouldn't have done that. And so now I'm just sitting here, I'm waiting. It takes about 3 hours just to get a stretcher and some people to help. And so then they start carrying us out of the ravine. At one point in the middle of being carried up the hill, there was some people following behind the people that were actually helping. And to one of the Indonesian guys that was following us, I asked him if he could take a picture of me. Yeah. And so I'm holding the tourniquet with one hand and my leg on my shoulder with the other hand. And with the hand with the tourniquet, I'm doing like a thumbs up and smiling to the camera. And it was kind of one of those moments where I recognized being upset or sad or panicking in this moment wasn't going to help anybody. Yeah. Everybody around me was very concerned and very upset and very panicked, right? It's an emergency situation. People don't know what's going on. So I decide I'm going to be the one to maybe help ease the tensions because I'm the one who's supposed to be hurt. And at this point, it's still fairly early on, so there's a lot of adrenaline pumping through my system. There's not too much pain. I kind of had like the option to focus on the pain or to focus on survival or helping myself or finding a way out. So I decide to kind of try to cheer other people around me, make little jokes, say things, and eventually, after about 3 hours, they get me up to the parking lot. So that's when we begin the journey of getting to a hospital, which in this area of Indonesia, it's fairly remote. Bali isn't a huge island, but from top to bottom is maybe like a 6-hour drive if you just go straight top to bottom.
I did it on bike a lot of times.
So first they take me to a clinic that's about 3 hours away because they wanted to get me somewhere. And this clinic, I hesitate to even say clinic because it's really just a room. There was no doctors. I think there might have been a nurse. They didn't have any medications for me. They didn't have any fluids. They didn't have any blood. Really all they did was they changed out my tourniquet for just like a medical tourniquet. But still during this period, I'm getting, the adrenaline wore off about 2.5 hours into it. So I'm feeling a lot of pain. I'm very confused why we're stopping at a place that doesn't have the help that I would need. And they ended up holding me at that hospital for about 3 hours. So now we're 6 hours in. I've gotten no medical help really.
Did you feel like unconscious?
I was totally aware and conscious the whole time. I tried to not.
Yeah.
So I mean, I fell off the rocks, right, and then I fell in the river.
For 6 hours, you were like.
For 6 hours, I was totally awake. At this point in the hospital, because I was asking them if they could give me painkillers, and they were saying no, because if I took painkillers, then there was a chance that I could just fall asleep because I'd lost so much blood and never wake up. So I was very annoyed. I was very frustrated with the people at that point because I'd been waiting here for 3 hours already, and I just started slamming my head against the wall, trying to knock myself out. So trying to just get out of the pain.
Was it hurting really, really bad? Or?
Yeah, at this point, 6 hours in, the pain was excruciating. After about 2.5 hours is when the pain started to set in. That's when the adrenaline wore off. And so hours, 3, 4, 5, it's just getting continuously worse and worse and worse. So I'm, at this point, I'm kind of like,
screaming.
Get me out of here. Yeah. Not screaming, but definitely a bit angry. I'm saying, why are you guys holding me? Like, let's go. We need to make it to a hospital. So eventually, we get out of that clinic and we start driving another 5-hour drive to a actual hospital. That's going to be later on in the story, actual hospital. But we're in the car for another 5 hours before we make it to Denpasar, which is like the capital city of Bali. And there they have another hospital.
Airport, hospital.
Yeah, but still this hospital has no air conditioning. There's bugs flying all around the room.
So crazy.
Yeah, nobody really speaks English. So me and my friend that came with me, the French guy, we're, trying to figure out what they're going to do or how they're going to help. But by this time it's hour 11, so that we make it to the hospital. And they had called into the hospital. They tried to tell them like, hey, I'm coming, be ready for surgery. But still, even after we arrive, there's about an hour wait before they can actually get me into the OR to do surgery. And the surgeon tells me that there's still a 20% chance that the leg could be reattached. Okay. So of course I say, let's do that. Why leave it off? If there's a chance, we may as well take every chance that's possible. Looking back on it now, listening to Western doctors and hearing their perspective, that was an insane decision for the doctor to even try.
Yeah.
But
so he tried to put your leg back?
They did put my leg back.
Okay.
Yeah, so they reattached my leg.
Okay.
After 12 hours.
Yeah.
Which is not ideal, to say the least. Because also I'd fallen in a river in a remote area of the jungle of Indonesia, so there's lots of strange infections and fungus and all sorts of stuff that's gotten inside. So when they reattached it, all of those infections kept spreading and spreading and spreading. So originally I had lost my leg about maybe 10 or 11 centimeters above my ankle.
Yeah.
So right about halfway in my leg. And currently I've only got 6 centimeters of my tibia left from my knee. So the infection ended up taking more and more and more of my leg at different points.
If they didn't attach, you wouldn't have lost.
If they didn't attach, I would have had a lot more of my leg to play with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was part of the effect from that decision that surgeon made. And I'm not judging because also, the location I was at, I'm assuming they didn't have as good medical training. They were doing the best with the resources that they had.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people can understand those situations. When you're in a place that doesn't have the best care, you take what you can get. That's all there is. So I'm stuck in the hospital in Indonesia. Is not great quality. I've lost a lot of blood. 12 hours is a lot of time to, be in that situation. And I think after 1 or 2 days, the hospital ran out of blood transfusions. So my blood type is A negative. Apparently in Indonesia, that's very rare. And the hospital itself obviously wasn't very high quality. It was kind of pieced together, but they didn't have enough blood to keep me alive. So that's when they had called my parents and said like, hey, we don't know if your son's going to make it. We don't have enough blood, which is insane.
So crazy.
So we had to do, I called my friend who lived up in Thailand. He owned a hostel. And I called him. He called another friend down in Bali who owned a hostel. The owner of the hostel in Bali called like a bunch of social media influencers. And they
search for
they posted like a story saying like, hey, if you're in Indonesia and you're a foreigner, please come help and donate some blood to this hospital because, you know, there's somebody that they don't have enough blood for.
Denpasar might be because lots of Australians, Americans.
Yeah, there was lots of tourists around and they came and they donated and that was what
good.
Kept me alive.
Oh, I'm not relieved now.
Yeah, a little. Well,
is it gonna be there?
It's not over yet. So at that hospital, this will get a little technical, but my hemoglobin was below 6 for like 5 days, which generally you'll die if you're at that level for that long because your body just cannot survive. I was lucky to be very young and very healthy, and so luckily I stayed around, but ultimately you're not supposed to be able to stay in a state that long. Actually, after the 5 days, we got like a medical evacuation to Bangkok, and they had to falsify my papers in the hospital in Indonesia to allow me to get onto the plane. So my blood levels were so low that the plane wouldn't take me unless the doctors said my blood levels were higher. So eventually I make it back to Bangkok after those like 5 days in the Indonesian hospital. There's a very nice hospital in Bangkok. I got like 13 surgeries in the next 3 months. So that very first week that I arrived in Bangkok, I had 5 surgeries in like 7 days. So it was just back to back to back to back surgeries.
So there were good hospitals in Bangkok? Yeah.
Very good hospital.
Very
yeah,
good.
That was an incredible hospital.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about them. They definitely kept me alive.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
Then you went back to USA. How long were you in the hospital in Bangkok?
So I was in the ICU in the hospital for about 2.5 months. And then I got to a like regular hospital room, and I was there for another 2 weeks before I ended up getting sent back to the United States.
So you went to New York?
I went to Atlanta,
which
is my hometown.
Yeah. So did you get more surgeries in?
Yeah. So I guess right now we're at surgery number 12 or 13. In Atlanta, I had another like 6 surgeries in the coming, maybe the next like 6 months or 7 months after that. So it was like pretty much the schedule was about every month I'd have another surgery, I'd recover from that surgery, and then I'd go into surgery again. And one of those surgeries was supposed to be the very last surgery. We were fixing range of motion problems. So at the beginning there was a lot of like emergency surgeries and dealing with infection, bone infections, different things that were taking more and more of my leg away. And then once we got to the United States, it had healed enough that really my biggest problem was just the range of motion of my knee. So we were supposed to have one last big surgery that was supposed to solve everything. And the surgeon cut straight through my quad tendon to the knee. He completely botched the surgery. He completely messed it up. He also left and went on vacation without taking my blood levels. And for the next day after that, so there was a period of 20 hours where I got no medical help again, where I was telling the doctors, I said, hey, there's something wrong. Can you please check my blood levels? And then they said, yeah, sure, we'll call a doctor, we'll page them. I said, okay, great. 2 or 3 hours later, I'm saying like, hey, where's the doctor? Like something's really starting to get wrong. And they said, yeah, we've paged them. It's busy. It's going to be a little bit of time. Then after that, it's maybe 4 or 5 hours in, and this is when I'm starting to get upset. I'm telling them like, hey, I'm starting to throw up now. So I know something's really wrong. I'm telling them like, hey, I really need a doctor. It ends up taking, cutting to the chase, it takes 20 hours to get a doctor to actually show up and test my blood.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So when they test my blood, at this point, for the last, 8 hours, I'd been telling them like, hey guys, I'm dying. I know what dying feels like. I've been dying several times in the last few months. I really need somebody to check my blood and let me know what's going on. So they finally checked my blood. My hemoglobin's at like 4.5. So
This is like stressing out. Yeah.
So generally in a hospital, if your blood levels ever dip below a 7, like we'll say 14 is normal for a guy, a 14 hemoglobin is normal. If it ever drops below 7, the hospital will automatically call for like a blood transfusion without any doctor having to sign off on it. It just automatically calls for it because they know that you're in really bad shape. So at this point, my hemoglobin's at 4.5, which usually you don't make it to because you'll have a stroke or a seizure before it gets that low. Once again, young and healthy, very lucky. And so they rush me in for an emergency surgery. They find a 1.5 liter hematoma, so I was just internally bleeding out in my leg. And it was something that was completely preventable. You know, this is where kind of that feeling of like hopelessness sets in, where you're telling this, you're in a hospital, you're telling the doctors I need help, and they're ignoring you. So you just feel this like sense of like, there's nothing I can do. I'm stuck in this situation, I'm going to die, and there's nothing I can do. They rush me in for surgery, I get the surgery done, the emergency surgery is successful, so I'm okay after that. But that surgeon, originally, the biggest mistake he made was cutting through my quad tendon, which is like the entire reason for the surgery. So now I've been set back about another 8 months worth of recovery. I have to get another, like, I don't know what number surgery we're at here. This was probably number 14 or 15. So now it set me on a path to get another 5 or 6 surgeries that I had to go get. I had more bone infections. I had 2 more bone infections where I had to have like IV antibiotics for like 6 weeks each. So 12 weeks total. That was an experience on its own. Like, you're waking up in the middle of the night throwing up like every other day. Just a lot of, you know, pieces that were avoidable, that should have been not a problem at all, but you're living through it anyway. And you feel like, why does it keep messing up? Why can't we get any surgery done successfully? So, and all this time, one of the biggest problems that we're dealing with is the insurance company itself. Working with, especially an American healthcare system, every single one of my 20 surgeries had been denied. So I'd be having a bone infection that was taking more and more of my leg away, and the insurance company would be saying, it's not medically necessary to have a surgery. You don't need a surgery. It's not necessary. So you're in this state where you're appealing their decision, and then they deny it again, and then you're appealing again, and then they deny it again. And every day that this continues, you're just losing more of your leg. So once again, going back to that feeling of hopelessness, where you just don't know what's going on. You don't know why you can't get the help that you know you should be getting. The entire time, I'm staying relatively positive for the situation. You know, there's a lot of things that I could have been feeling, but I understood that ultimately in life, there's nothing really good or bad to your situation. It's all about your perspective and what you decide to focus on. I could have focused on, oh, woe is me, like, I'm missing part of my leg, I'm never going to be as physically active as I was before. But realistically, how is that going to help my life? It's just not. So I decided to kind of recognize and appreciate that I was still alive, because it was very likely and almost a certainty that I would have been dead. So I was very lucky to just be in the situation in the first place. And then on top of that, people live amazing lives missing limbs all the time. The Paralympics exist. Most of those people were living cooler and more interesting lives than I was before my amputation. So I understood that there is a way to find a path and to find a happy life despite whatever challenges that you're facing in the moment.
So after you decided to travel, keep traveling.
Yeah, so I've been traveling for years before this whole accident happened. And at this point, I was finally in a relatively stable cycle where I knew I was going to have this surgery, I was going to have this amount of recovery, and then I was going to have another surgery. And so that's where I'm at right now. So I had time where I could travel. I decided to fly to Nepal. During that time in Bangkok, where I had just lost my leg, I had lots of phantom pain. So pain that you can't use a drug to get rid of.
Phantom ache is like a ghost ache.
Yeah, like ghost pain, yeah.
Yeah, ghost pain. So you think your leg is there, and it has itches, pain, this kind of things, right?
It's kind of like whatever pain that your brain can imagine will happen.
Okay,
so I would have
swollen.
Yeah, I had like my leg would like inflate like a balloon and pop.
Yeah.
It'd be getting stabbed often. It'd be getting electrocuted. It would be getting hit like a punching bag. It'd be like just. I mean, some of the funnier ones was when it was getting like when it was like ticklish. It felt like somebody was tickling my foot, or where it was very itchy, and you're just in this state of like, I want to scratch it, but there's nothing to scratch. There's nothing you can do. You're just stuck there. And it's funny that how like that can be just as painful as real as the pain sensations.
So I know you came to Nepal.
So I had gotten rid of the phantom pain before I came to Nepal.
Okay.
But the reason I came to Nepal was I stayed at like a monastery.
Yeah.
So in that monastery, I kind of had the idea from the hospital in Bangkok where I'd realized like, your brain is really powerful. If you can use it in the right way and meditate in the right way for you, you can get rid of all of that pain. Because ultimately it is in my head at that point, right? There is no limb that's actually sending a signal of pain. At that point it is in my brain. And phantom pain is something that stays for a lifetime for a lot of people. But if you meditate, it is possible to get rid of in different ways. You know, I can't say it will work perfectly for everybody, but for me, I was lucky and I was able to get rid of all of my phantom pain through meditation.
Don't have anymore.
I don't have any phantom pain anymore. I have lots of nerve damage in the leg that is there, so I still get lots of pain, but it's not in the limb that's missing.
But you use also like painkillers, of course, right?
No.
You don't use it?
I use no medication at all.
So you don't want to use it?
Yeah. I wanted, because there's long-term health detriments to continuing to use painkillers, or like often they give you kind of like seizure medication because that helps with nerve pain.
Yeah.
So I was on Lyrica for a long time. I was on gabapentin. There's a couple different drugs that they use for that stuff, but it's really not great for your system to use long term.
So you look very healthy. You go to gym every day here.
Yeah.
You're going to cities. You're like 10 times healthier than me, you look. I'm like so wasted and depressed. And it's like jumping around like in the mount. I saw your story, you were like climbing something.
Yeah, I was up on a waterfall the other day.
You were still climbing. So you got like, no.
I was at a climbing gym the other day as well. Yeah, I was doing some climbing.
Like climbing and he fell. And it was like coming back again. Like nothing happened.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
I have friends like bitten by a dog and they don't want to see a dog all their life.
Like I said, it's just that perspective thing.
Yeah.
If you decide to focus on the negative things in life, that'll be what you see.
That's fantastic.
You know?
Just what happened to your leg?
I think it got sent off to like a medical research center somewhere in Thailand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's been like used for medical research.
Hopefully, I don't know. Maybe there were some, freshman students that were just playing with it. I don't know what they did.
So just to explain.
Yeah.
Because like we're making jokes, so people would think, oh, why are you making jokes about it? But you're quite. We've been joking with him for a long time, so that's he likes. So what kind of jokes do you get from your friends? Do you have like weird jokes?
So there is. Often what happens is.
Yeah.
Often it's like with kids. So most people are fairly respectful and they won't come up to me and just ask like, oh, what happened to your leg? Usually it'll be like little kids and they'll just, kind of point or look and you see their eyes go wide and they're confused. And sometimes they'll just say like, oh, what happened? And I like to joke around a lot, so I'll tell them like, oh, if you're really naughty, Santa sometimes takes things away. Or I'll tell them, just little stories. If you don't listen to your parents, this might happen to you too. But
you're just like giving them like
give a little bit of panic to the kid, and usually it makes the parent laugh a little bit. So it's something that kind of eases the tension, and I always try to say or do something that makes everybody feel comfortable around the whole situation. Because a lot of people don't know how to treat you when you have something that's obvious and detrimental to your life, at least from their perspective. So I try to keep it lighthearted, let people know that, hey, just a regular person too, this happens, things happen in life. And it's just a part of who you are.
You're a fantastic person because you're like, you took it very well, unlike many other people would. So you have a really you're a colorful person as well. So you're cheerful. You don't care. What can you do?
So to that point though, I do think, this happened at a point in my life where I was already in a very good mindset.
Okay. Yeah.
These kind of events affects everybody very differently.
Yeah.
Like, it's very hard for me to give the advice of just like, look on the bright side, be positive, this kind of stuff. If you're not in a place where that makes sense, that doesn't make sense, right? lots of people take a lot of time to mourn the losses of something, and as far as an amputation goes, I have the lightest of them. A below knee amputation is the least of, a single leg below knee is the lowest level of amputation really there is, unless.
You told me there's a chance they might cut upper knee, no?
Yeah, so that's my next surgery is in about 2 months, and I still have about a 50% chance that they're going to need to amputate above my knee. So in that case, I'll definitely lose more of my ability to be physically active. But if it's able to stay at a below knee, I'll be able to do probably close to like 90 to 95% of what I did prior.
Yeah. So you told me you have like a new system.
Yeah.
They just planted. What's that? Can you explain?
So that's something called osseointegration, so bone integration. So they take a titanium implant and they put it all the way into your bone, and some of it's sticking out. So it's something that's more common for above knee amputees or people with arm amputations. But for below knee amputations, it's much more rare. And so I'm kind of like the lab rat, per se, for that right now. And I'm going to be one of the people testing the limitations of that because of how short my bone is. So I'm looking forward to, maybe providing some kind of value for research in the future and showing other people what's possible, not only with an amputation, but with this specific piece of technology.
Yeah, I saw it. It looks quite good. Good, like,
yeah.
If it works, like, it's going to be fantastic because it will be like...
Yeah, it solves a lot of the problems that traditional socket prostheses have, or socket prosthetics. Sometimes there's problems with sweat or with mobility or movement. Some people have pain from the pressure that's put on it, and because I have this implant that I was very lucky to be able to get, it's going to avoid a lot of those problems.
It's like, teeth implants.
Yeah, so it's actually osseointegration started with dental implants.
Yeah.
So that was the original implementation, I think in the 1950s, and that process started moving to different
Somebody
types.
thought, let's do it on a leg.
Yeah, eventually we got to that point. I think it was first teeth, then I think like some people with fingers or toes or stuff, and then eventually moved to arms because that's where it's the most necessary, and upper arm, and then upper leg, and then kind of the final frontier is the lower leg.
Fantastic. Do you have any questions?
Did you do the therapy with the shadow of the mirror?
No.
To not feel the ghost pain?
So the way it worked in the hospital, since I was so close to the verge of death so often, my pain was the lowest level of priority. So they really weren't doing any kind of work for my pain specifically. It was really just about keeping me alive and keeping the infection from spreading further. So at that point, really, I didn't have any support. Like I had pain teams that were loading me up with lots of opiates and different drugs. But as much as they do, they really just kind of numb your mind. They don't change the pain that's there. So the pain management at the level that actually made a difference was all kind of up to the meditation. So that's part of what we were saying of why I came to Nepal afterwards. I wanted to learn a more formal style of this meditation technique that I had pieced together from random clips on the internet of just trying to figure out how to manage pain.
Do you have any questions?
How has your day-to-day life changed? And I guess when you were going through the initial surgeries, did you expect to be where you are now? A year later, for example, already traveling, moving around, being independent.
Well, a year later, I expected to be completely healed. These things, for a lot of people, it's a much quicker process. I'm 20 surgeries in at this point, so that's not normal at all. I had a buddy who lost his leg in a ski mobile accident, and 6 weeks later he competed in the X Games and won gold with a prosthetic leg. So these things generally happen much quicker. I've been on crutches for over a year and a half now. So my day-to-day has definitely changed a lot with my physical activity that I did before, but I found different ways to work out, different ways to do different types of sports. I'm more into calisthenics now, so lots of handstands, lots of time away from my legs.
I saw today.
But Yeah, so the activity level has definitely changed in certain ways, but I've found different routes to be able to maintain that level of activity.
Did you learn to drive a new car? Because I can understand now you drive with your hands.
No.
Or your clutcher still, but do you change? You just
So I drive an
closer?
automatic car.
Okay, automatic.
An automatic car, and my right leg used to be the leg that I use for my gas and brake. Now I just cross my left leg over and use kind of like the edge of my foot. But it's...
You're right-handed, right?
I'm right-handed, yeah.
So is it like very difficult to use it?
Not at all. I really was expecting that to be a more difficult thing. We brought the car out to like a big parking lot so that I could try to learn how to use it. And at that point I just had a long enough time with just the one leg that maybe it adapted a little bit and the muscle coordination was a little bit better. So it was really surprising when I got in the car and I drove totally normally. So I did end up having a prosthetic for like 2 months, and I kind of gave that up to do this implant. So it was a difficult decision because in the moment I was thinking, like, I have something finally, you know, I could stay with this, but I recognized that even though I'd have to go through more surgeries and more recovery and more time down, that it would be worth it in the long run to make a decision that would better my future and my future level of activity. So making a decision like that is, you know, there's many tough decisions that you have to make in a process like this, but ultimately you really should be focusing on the long-term abilities and not necessarily the short-term, you know, 1-2 year satisfaction. You should take the time and recognize, like, hey, if I've got to do 5 more surgeries, but it's going to make my life much better in the long run, it's probably worth it to do those 5 surgeries.
Okay, what would you tell the children that lost their limbs in the earthquake?
I would say take your time, do whatever you need to mentally process the emotions that you have, because everybody's going to have a very different story. I think I was very lucky, and most people are in a position where they do have a lot more time where they need to process those emotions and really handle what's happened to them. Also, I would say, don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Don't avoid going to a hike with friends because you don't think you'll be able to do it. Always push the limits of what you're able to do with your prosthesis or with crutches. I've been on crutches for 1.5 years now. I did 1,000 meters of elevation in 1 day hiking. It's something that you build up to, but it's certainly possible to live a very active life only on crutches, even if you never got a prosthetic. There's lots of options, and there's always a way to do something if you put the time into figuring out how to do it. So don't let the obvious obstacles stop you in the first place. Really show up to something that you don't think you'll be able to do and see if there's a way to figure it out. Ask for help. Get people's perspectives on what they think you could do. Work with somebody that's also worked with people with amputations in the past. Find a physical therapist that has worked with people with amputations before them. Getting proper medical care is so important. Finding the right specialist is so important. There's so many foundations out there that are trying to give support and don't know who to give it to. So if you're looking online, find resources and reach out. It's really worth it, and it'll help you in the long run.
You're a fantastic soul. Okay.
Thank you.
Very happy to meet you. Honor for me. Yes.
I appreciate it.
And I'll follow you on Instagram. We'll also give your Instagram so people can follow you.
JDONNLL.
I'll write down.
Perfect.
Underneath. So many beautiful girls will follow you.
After that whole story, we're just back.
That was the reason we talked so much. Yeah, that's we fixed.
Well,
yeah. Nice to meet you.
Once again, thank you so much.
Hope you have a great life and hope to see you again in somewhere.
Wish me luck on my next surgery.
Yeah, I am feeling it will be perfectly.
I'm feeling hopeful as well.
Yeah, very, very hopeful.
All should go well.
More than 90%, definitely.
Maybe.
So, yeah. Sorry about it. We've been joking also with you, like each other. Arkadaşlar biz birbirimiz arasında şakalar yapıyoruz. Kendi yaptığı için o şakaları biz yapıyoruz. Onun için yani yazmayın niye böyle şakalar yapıyorsunuz falan diye.
What he said.
He just don't follow them. Evet, and our French friends, and friends minor,
And then
like inferior friends. I'm sorry. Friends and inferior friends. Yeah, smaller friends.
Smaller friends.
The friends
level up,
petite.
level up.
The, developed friends. That's bad. That's so bad.
that's the next episode.
Hello, my friend. He does great documentaries.
Oh,
The best documentary maker ever lived.
I'm just here to hang out.
Best documentary maker ever lived in
Wow.
Michigan.
Close.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Not too
Wisconsin.
far off. Yes.
How did you find his story? What do you think?
I'm shy. I would say it's very impressive. I don't know how I would react if it would happen to me. First, I was like, oh, it's like the movie 127 Hours. But to meet someone in real life, it's very like, it's a shock. But when you see his smile that he put on his face, everything can be better, and you don't want to annoy everybody with your own problems because there is so much bigger, and the person take it so easy.
I've never seen
He's very brave, and I hope it will get good. It will be good with the next operation. I wish him luck, good luck. Yeah, so I'm very happy to know him. It's a kind of inspiration, I think, in life.
Evet arkadaşlar, kendinize bakın. Muhteşem bir hikayeyle bitirdik. Bay bay.